Let me take you to Delhi now. Historic talks there between India's newly elected Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Pakistani counterpart Nawaz Sharif. Mr. Sharif was there to attend Mr. Modi's inauguration on Monday. Relations between India and Pakistan, you may remember, have been taking a nosedive, especially since that terror attack in Mumbai in 2008, in which 166 people were killed. No details have been given about what the two men have been talking about. But with me to talk about more of this is Dr. Rudra Chaudhuri. He's from King's College London. Dr. Chaudhuri, thanks very much for coming in. So there's got to be great symbolism in this, hasn't there? I mean, these are, not exactly friendly nations, hostile nations.
Well, I think it's a hugely welcome initiative on the part of the new Prime Minister, not only because it's unprecedented. Prime Ministers from neither countries have attended inaugurations such as these, but I think for 2 points. One is, and I think as far as Narendra Modi is concerned, it allows him to personalize his relations with Pakistan. Now, this is a Prime Minister whose style or his approach is personality-driven. He normally tends to bypass institutions, and I believe that he will not be sort of placing his foreign policy imperatives on institutions, but rather will take control of what he thinks is one of the most important relations in the neighbourhood.
Because his predecessor, Manmohan Singh, did not really go for that brand of personality politics at all, did he? So Modi is saying, I'm the man, I'm in charge.
Well, very much so, and I think Manmohan Singh tried very hard, but he had domestic compulsions. He did not have the kind of mandate that Narendra Modi has in dealing with the neighbourhood as such. But second, and the hope very much is the 50 minutes that both Prime Ministers spent this morning in New Delhi, they would have sort of tried to institute some form of a crisis mechanism structure in dealing with each other in the future. And the hope very much is that they will appoint a back-channel dialogue, much like between 2004 and 2008, when, as your report rightly suggested, the talks were abruptly and brutally stopped because of the Mumbai terror attacks.
And just on the reason that Mr. Modi chose to go to Pakistan first, I mean, the whole campaign was dogged by these accusations that Mr. Modi was anti-Muslim. So do you think there's an element of symbolism here as well?
Well, there is an element of symbolism, but I think there's also an element of divorcing or isolating domestic politics and domestic compulsion from his foreign policy imperatives. I mean, he's a pragmatic leader. The two issues discussed most with Pakistan were terror and trade. And I have no doubt whatsoever that this will give the kind of impetus, cautious of course we need to be in terms of what will this result in terms of substantive outcomes. But I think it's a good start to give the impetus to discussions around trade and to the Mumbai terror court trials within Pakistan.
So it sounds like you are quite optimistic about Mr. Modi's premiership and also this relationship.
But I don't know about this premiership, but certainly about in terms of a relationship. I mean, given the mandate that Mr. Modi has, I mean, the moral responsibility now really lies on him to take this foreign policy direction forward. I mean, this is a party that has criticized the Congress party over the last 10 years for not going far enough in terms of foreign policy goals. So now the kind of moral imperative remains on Narendra Modi's footsteps in seeing what he can do, given that he has a much larger mandate than the Congress ever had in the last 10 years.
OK, Dr. Chaudhuri, thanks very much for giving us your
Thank you.
expert wisdom.